Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome, everyone on Facebook. Welcome, everyone on Instagram. My apologies for those of you who are waiting at 1 o'clock. I did not, as much as I try to organize my time appropriately, sometimes things like this do happen. So I am here now. I would like to talk to you about the ARL. Some of you may be thinking what that is. And that is exactly what I will be explaining to you. We'll be talking to you. We'll be giving you lots and lots of, again, inner knowledge that usually, this is very interesting to know, the knowledge that I'm sharing with you is a knowledge that usually comes to people after they practice after a certain period of time. I would say at least a year. Okay, when they practice the method of Neurographica, welcome, Zulita, so nice to see you here. When they practice the method of Neurographica, I would say for approximately at least 6 months, intensive practicing for a year. I've been practicing Neurographica. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Lana Shalom. I'm a certified Neurographica instructor and coach. I'm a certified Neurographica Specialist trainer. So welcome to my open live sessions on social media. I usually go live different times, doesn't always work out the same time as much as I try, but it's usually in the daytime, never in the evening. It's just a more flexible time for me because the kids are in school. Being a mom is first and foremost for me, as I know it is for most of you, the female ones, I mean, or maybe not so even. But I do go live almost every day. This week I went, God willing, next week I will go to tell you more, okay? And to bring you the insider, how there is insider trading and that's not allowed by law. Well, we have insider information and insider trading, so to say, in Neurographic, and it is okay. It is okay for me to share with you the inner knowledge, the way to understand. I know for me, it was a very struggling journey, I want to tell you. Yes, everybody probably heard the story if you didn't watch the previous videos, but I do tell the story how I met Neurographic. And yes, it was a love at first sight. Nothing less than that, as many of you can relate to that, right? I know many of you have the same thing. However, the journey of studying Neurographic, of becoming proficient, of becoming an instructor, a certified instructor, nonetheless, constantly drawing, constantly reworking and redrawing, taking the supervision and thinking, what else can I do? How do I improve? It takes a lot of time, and it took a lot of inner, with the word, not strength, but faith. It was a lot of faith. I really, there were times, I would say 2 or 3 times, and when I would think, why did I even start? Why did I even do this? I could have just become a basics or a specialist, certified in just about it. At one point, I remember thinking seriously, what moved me to become an instructor, right? And of course, I found an answer for that question is to be able to bring this to others. But like everything else, by the time I became the instructor, by the time I internalized it so much that I was able to bring it to others, it took some time. It did take some time. It did take some challenges that I felt, at one time that they were not challenges, but rather hardships that are appearing to overthrow my will, overthrow my interest, overthrow my ability to learn and to do things for others. But thank God that passed away. I was able to look at things, and this is what I would like to bring it to you. We are going to actually talk about something like this within the method of Neurographica. How do you overcome challenges, whether they're inner challenges within yourself, within your faith, within yourself, within your faith in humanity, within yourself, your faith into to the universe, to God. Right? We're all going through this now. I want to tell you, I go through this as somebody in a very unique position, right? I have a lot of friends on both sides of what's happening in the world. And it really is a huge pain to see people taking things internally, people looking at hardships and taking it as a way, as an actual, hard obstacle that you need to kind of fight with. The word fight is the right word here. Okay, you need to actually fight with. okay? And I'm trying to look at it. I was actually talking to somebody today, somebody who's very wise, somebody who became a student, and we were discussing this. And I was talking about the fact that when we learn to see hardships as challenges, that changes the whole aspect of the way we can overcome those challenges, right? ARL in the method of Neurographica stands for algorithm for removing limitations. Limitations. What are limitations? I want to tell you, I was at the forefront of translating the name for this algorithm this way, because the original word in Russian has different meanings. And of course, there were different translations previously, but when I was translating the book, the founder's book, the founder of the method, Pavel Piskaryov, the name would give different options to be translated in English. And one of the options was that some instructors adapted at the moment, that was 2 years ago, was ALIC, algorithm for lifting inner constraints. Then there was another option to name it as algorithm for removing tension. And then there was this option, algorithm for removing limitations. I remember discussing this with author and trying to figure out what would be the best. And I remember discussing that with details. We would discuss each name, each term. And the main reason why, well, he right away said that definitely not removing tension, because tension relates to the physical limitation within the body. And he said that's not what it is, because I remember asking the author, what is, asking Pavel, what was the original idea when you came up with this term? What was that about? How did you come up with the term? This way, if I understand the logic, the psychology behind it, I will be able to give it the correct translation. And we did not go with lifting inner constraints, because constraints, when I started doing research on the linguistic understanding of each term, what constraints showed as something that has something that is restrained or something that is limited from the outside. And to say that lifting inner constraint is like an oxymoron in itself, because how do you lift inner constraint when constraint refers to something that's done on the outside by the environment? Right, so we did come up for the word removing limitations, and it's a great general term for this algorithm, as well as it can become as individual as possible as you wanted to make it. Okay, let's think about it. What is limitation? Limitation, I'm going to read you the actual definition, is an act or an instance of limiting, the quality or state of being limited, something that limits, that restrains certain period limited by statute, after which action, suits, or presentations cannot be brought in court. That's something that has to do with law. We're not going to deal with it. But limitations actually did refer to something being as inner, both inner and outer. So this can be referred to the limitation that we have, blocks. And I'll give you synonyms to the limitation: blocks, circumspection, condition, constraint, drawback, impediment, inhibition, injunction, obstruction, reservation, restriction, snag, right? Again, exactly the understanding we receive when it comes to the ARL, when it comes to removing limitations that arise within you, removing limitations that arise around you, within your environment, okay? So those of you who are watching, please welcome. Hello. I see some people joining. Welcome to like the live on both social medias. Welcome to write hello. I would love to hear from you. I would like to see you giving me feedback. Do you like the fact that I'm doing open live show sessions? Would you like me to continue? Are there any topics you would like me to pursue? Welcome to let me know. Those of you on YouTube, I don't always see the comment. YouTube does not notify me of the comments. Sometimes I find out a few months later because I honestly don't have time to go and check on all my videos and see if there are comments. So welcome to come and find me on Facebook. Welcome to write to me in direct messages. A lot of people do that. I love receiving that. I love hearing your feedback. Please let me know if you want to hear something specific, if you want me to discuss something specific, if you have any questions you want me to bring up, okay? Let's talk more about limitation. Let's discuss what's happening with us, okay? In psychology field, in the coaching field, right? I do want to note, Neurographica is first and foremost is a psychological and a coaching tool, okay? Yes, you can use certain aspects of the neurographic drawing within such things as neuro art. Develop your own style of drawing, your own style of art, and that's called neuro art. So welcome to do that, but learn more about neurographic as a method so you can become more aware when you actually, practice it. So in psychology field or the coaching field, limitations are the way we bring up our resistance. All of you who are my students in the basics course, in the specialist, any course, we talk about resistance. We talk about the fact that whenever you start bringing transformation, and remember, that's what the truth is, that's what Neurographica is, okay? Neurographica is an amazing method of achieving transformation, first within one's mindset, the word neuro, working with one's mindset, working with the brain, neural development, neuroplasticity, neural pathways. And then sequentially, this transformation will come into one's life, okay? People will start, and I have that happen to me, my colleagues, and of course the students, people start seeing transformation changes within their life, okay? Within themselves and their families, their community, and then the world around them. That does happen, okay? Let's do this. Let's use this method. That's one of the reasons why I became, again, so active in doing the open live sessions, because so much going on around us. Let's bring the transformation. Let's bring the love. Let's work through resistance. When challenges arise, when limitations come up, limitations are something that already exists within us. And another way, again, to call it would be resistance, right? Limitation blocks, inner blocks, constraints, that hold us inside, right? They come up, and we call it resistance because we start feeling like there's some kind of resistance. Something is resisting my transformation. Something is resistant for changes to come into my life, to come into my world, okay? And that's what we need to learn to work with, okay? What is resistance, by the way? Resistance, those of you who watched yesterday when I drew the pyramid of consciousness, remember how we worked on what is the topic, right? Remember, whenever we start drawing Neurographica, we always start with step number one. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the step number one is one of the 7 steps of the algorithm. Welcome to watch a whole series. By the way, those of you who are not aware, when you come to my YouTube channel, I personally sat down and arranged all of my videos into playlists. So when you come to my YouTube channel, go to playlist, you will be able to see all the playlists arranged, okay? Let's say if you want to see the 7 steps of the algorithm, they're arranged as a playlist. Go and watch all the videos. There are 10 principles in Neurographica. There are 7 layers of the pyramid of consciousness, going each one by one through each layer, through on a much deeper level than what I gave you yesterday, for example, right? So the first step is always the topic. The first step is, according to the pyramid of consciousness, like we learned yesterday, is active consciousness, actual consciousness, right? Like right now, actual consciousness for me to look into the screen. I have 2 screens in front of me, right? I have the iPad with the Insta Live, I have the computer with the Facebook Live, and I also have my open notes that I constantly be on. Notes are my major life hack, how I am able to, maneuver through various ways. Welcome, Vicky. Through various way, I do things, right? How I go through various topics and then go back, how I can talk about different things in Neurographica. And by the way, my students know this. This is an amazing part of being my student. Any and all of my courses, whenever you learn with me, you get a copy of my session notes. This is so important to understand. Why? Because with a copy of my session notes, you will be able to constantly remember all my sessions you get to. Welcome, Vicky. So glad to hear from you. Thank you for letting me know you're here and watching. And with all of my sessions, you enter the course, you buy the course. First of all, you get all of the recordings of all the previous cohorts, right? Like we are now, and hooray, in the 10th cohort of the basics course, I am so excited. I'm yet to have to make a Facebook post about it, which I'm working on. Okay, it's coming. The point is, everybody who went to my course, they get the recordings of all the previous cohorts, which is a big deal because every time I teach the course, it's always different aspects. Then they get to attend as many live sessions as they want. I usually do live sessions about every 2 months. So you're welcome to come as often as you want, learn as much as you want, because the live sessions are very unique, right? Not everybody give live sessions. A lot of people sell just recordings, right? And that's okay. I personally learn a lot from recorded sessions when I learn certain courses, right? Especially I take a lot of courses that are like in different time zones, Europe. So I'm not always able to go in the live session, but I watch recording and that works for me. So it's interesting to know that whenever live sessions is a great way. I have a lot of students who even learned in recording and then they join the live session and they say it was a different atmosphere. First of all, you get to learn, you get to ask questions, you get to see certain things, the way I practice within the session. You know, it's a different setting. So I definitely advise and invite everybody to come and join the live sessions with me in all my courses, the basics course that's going on now, the specialist course. So the basics course is where we do this special algorithm called the algorithm for removing limitations, right? And let's talk about resistance, okay? We talked about it yesterday, like I mentioned, the very first step, the very first way, the way we join Neurographic is always start with something. I ask, what do you want? Where do you want to be? What is your goal? What is your topic? Okay. And that's important. As soon, by the way, as soon as you make your topic, kind of say it out loud, so to say, right? Make it conscious, bring it to the conscious level, even if you don't tell it to me. Let's say if you're writing down, when we work in a group setting, right? It's not personal. People write down things. What happens? As soon as the topic comes up, reality kicks in. And I work with that reality. I say, okay, so what's going on? Why aren't you there yet? Why didn't you reach your topic? Why didn't you why didn't you reach your topic? Why aren't you there? Why don't you have what you want? And the person right away usually the person becomes taken aback by my question, like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, you want it, you're supposed to have it, right? Why not? What's holding you back? That's when the person starts thinking, what is holding him or her back, right? And that's what we work with. We start understanding that something is holding a person back. What is that something? How do we work with it? Again, on a psychological level, it's something we call resistance, but it's much more than that. Resistance is the way that inner limitations, inner blocks, right, shows that something is holding me back from reaching my goal. And the interesting part here is that since I am a certified specialist, neurographic specialist trainer, so I train people who are more advanced level, right? I'm a supervisor. I supervise people for the past 3 years. I've been a supervisor at the Institute, for Psychology of Creativity. And the interesting part is that when I work with people in advanced level, right, especially when I work with colleagues, right, a lot of people who come to learn neurographic, especially on the specialist level, our colleagues, they want to take this method and they want to use it professionally within their background. And they often have a lot of background and they're often extremely professional, right? I sometimes feel kind of in awe when I work with people like that. I'm like, I hope I can stand up, to this. I can stand up to being able to teach people like this because they have a huge amount, a lot of years behind them doing what they do, right? But the interesting part is, so when I work with colleagues, when I work with students in the advanced level, we actually discuss and we actually talk about making aware of one's resistance consciously, okay? being able to understand what are your limiting beliefs, being able to understand what's holding you back, what are your secondary beliefs, the beliefs that have secondary benefits. If I don't become rich, then I don't have to pay taxes. That's called secondary benefits, right? We actually learned this in details during the psychology of money program, which I'm actually forming, and God willing, in spring, I'm bringing it to you. But the interesting idea is that we talk and we start at the best, the understanding is that when you're aware of your limits, you can work with them. When you're aware of what you're dealing with, you will know the best way how to maneuver yourself around and deal with this entity, with this block, whatever it is that's coming up, right? However, it's important to know that when advanced people, when colleagues of mine, when I deal with inner, with my resistance, with inner blocks, or maybe some outer blocks that come up on the outside of my environment, I start thinking, what is that all about? The interesting part about that is that even then, even when we're aware, we need to learn how to do things in a safe way. Safety is very important. So when somebody starts to learn Neurographica, and remember, this is the first, one of the first algorithm, right? Within the basics course, we learn how to remove limitations. In order to work with your inner self, in order to get to know your resistance, in order to understand what's behind the resistance, right? If I can't get what I want, right? If I'm trying to advance, if I'm trying to start a business and it's not happening, constantly something coming up in the environment and things are coming, kind of taking it back, right? Instead of going forward, or I make one step forward, but then two steps backwards every single time, I have to think, what is holding me back? What's coming within myself? There are inner blocks that are resulting, and this is the important thing to understand, the outer environmental circumstances are the result, are the sequential consequences, so to say, sequential results of what's happening within me. And what's happening within me are blocks. How do blocks come? Blocks comes from certain things that we call inner self. The first thing we need to do, and that's what we work with within this method, within this algorithm for removing inner limitation, for removing limitations, is that we need to establish a safe connection with who we are. Okay. One of the ways to explain this, right? There are different ways. One of the ways I'm going to bring to you is that we all have an inner child and an inner parent and an inner adult within us. The most sensitive connection we need to establish within this inner work is that connection with our inner child. A lot. I cannot emphasize enough that most of the blocks we have come from our inner child. Most of the blocks, most of the limiting beliefs we have come from the way we grew up, the way we were brought up, the way we heard certain things in our environment, right? The way people, adults in our environment would explain things to us, right? Like if you want something, people would say, you can't always get what you want right away. You need to work hard for it. Or, only good girls get it, or only, good people get it. If you don't, or like certain dogmas, such as if you don't get it, that means you're doing something wrong, right? So that's how blocks come up, right? When you set a goal, the best way, the ideal way would be to get to your goal right away. You want to have it, right? If I want to have an ice cream, I'm going to go open my freezer and the ice cream will be there. Whether I bought it this week or not, right? Whether I consciously worked on it or not. However, if I go open my freezer and think, I remember buying an ice cream and it's not there. What is this about? It's not only about the fact that my children ate it, right? That are circumstantial, that are environmental circumstances. But really, it comes from the fact, and again, I'm giving you a very simplified example, but it really comes from the fact that maybe deep inside, I don't believe I deserve to get something the way I want to. Those are called inner limited beliefs, and they do come from your inner child, the way you were given things when you were a child, the way you were explained, the way you were shown love and care. It can come from your inner adult. The inner adult is the inner entity that says, that acts the way you saw adults. I'm sorry, not inner adult, inner parent. The inner parent is the entity within you that acts the way you saw two major people, or for some people, even one major person, right? For single parent homes, how your parent reacted to anything you did, to anything you wanted, to your desires, to the way you express yourself. If the parent was restrictive, disciplinarian, right, harsh disciplinarian, that's how you end up having an inner parent. Is that the way the inner parent reacts to the inner child? So the inner child will say, I want the ice cream. And the inner parent say, well, did you deserve it? What did you do to deserve? Right? This idea that we only get things that we deserve, right? This notion. It comes from this kind of, not a resistance, but what would be the word? The constant, there is a word in my mind, constant struggle. That's the word, the struggle between inner child and inner parent. When inner child is constantly trying to get attention, trying to get what they want, and inner parent is not able to see the inner child, to see the needs of the inner child, but rather start saying, giving the disciplinarian, the way, how there are some parents who bring up to have a connection with the child, and then there are parents who go by the parental laws that somebody told them that these are the laws of how you become a parent. Right. And then all they do is put restrictions, if you want this, you can have a doll, you can have more than one doll, you can buy more toys, you can have more than, you can only have ice cream if you deserve it. Like circumstantial, it's called in education, this is called in psychology also, this is called a grade level, right? Where we're grading everything, right? For many years, that was way before the pandemic, way before it became popular, but for many years, I homeschooled my kids, and it was an amazing way because they would learn how things do not need to be graded. Your work doesn't have to be graded in order for you to know that you did well. You do not have to be compared to one another in order to know that you do well. You are who you are, and we accept you the way you are. Okay, so when one works with one's inner resistance, this is the first thing they do. The first thing to do is to establish a safe connection with your inner child, okay? The inner child is an entity that requires the most sensitivity, the most necessity to understand, to be given understanding, to be given empathy and sympathy. And I do use both words. Yes, empathy is very important, right? A lot of people who are empathic, you know what I'm talking about. I'm very empathic. You try to avoid sensitivity because that becomes a bit too much, because you feel the pain of people around you so much that at one moment it feels like a heavy baggage, right? But once you start learning how to deal with yourself, and that's why, by the way, we talked about it, the basics course is a self-coaching course. You work to deal with yourself. You work on bringing transformation within yourself. Why? Those who are professional psychologists, we know that the first rule of learning to become a professional within any healing, or, I'm going to call it healing if it's okay, but within any profession that are helping professions, that we bring assistance to somebody. The first thing is we need to learn to bring assistance to ourselves, right? It's a mask over your head first, right? Like in the airplane, you put over your head first the parents and then over your child. Same thing with anybody. Learn to work with yourself. Start establishing this the most sensitive entity within yourself, inner child. By the way, we work a lot with the inner child, inner parent, and inner adult roles, entities within us, within this very amazing course that I lead that's called the Butterfly Effect course. Amazing course. I'm hoping I'm going to bring it in a few weeks. Still have to look at my schedule, figure it out. That's what it is, right? We need to learn to establish a connection with the inner child. Once you start establishing, once you give attention to your inner child, once your inner child feels that it's there, and first and foremost, you hear it, you acknowledge it. Having an inner child is not about giving the toy that they want or eating 10 ice creams a day, right? My kids try that. Can I eat another ice cream? And I say, and we have a conversation about nutrition. I don't say no right away. I don't say yes right away. I don't say yes to the second ice cream. But what we do have is having an understanding that, is it good for you to have this ice cream again? How is it good for your nutrition, the sugar level? Is it good for the way your body absorbs it, right? And I have different kids. I have a child who once she eats something sugary like chocolate or something, she becomes very hyperactive. And I teach her differently. I teach her to have self-regulation, to pay attention what you eat, because that does influence the way you react to the world, and most importantly, the way you react to yourself. okay? Establishing connection with your inner child, establishing connection with your inner parent. And most importantly, this is very important. A lot of times we talk about the inner child, the inner parent. Not a lot of people talk about the inner adult. Who's the inner adult? The inner adult is the entity within you that works as a peacemaker, right? As a middleman between inner child and inner parent. The inner adult is the one who helps the inner child get through to the inner parent, and the inner parent to see the needs, maybe the pain, maybe the necessity of the inner child. Okay, that's the inner adult. Okay, we need to learn to establish that inner adult. All right, okay. And this is the important part. Once we establish this connection, once we start learning to get to know what is our resistance, how does it show itself? For many, first, I have a lot of students, I have a lot of clients, right? And it's interesting to note for some people that the resistance will show in the way where I start feeling uncomfortable, right? Or the first thing, by the way, you're going to see the resistance is the environment around you. When you just start getting to know, when you just start this transformational process, the environment will not let you change, right? You will meet people who say, do what? Neuro what? Come on. Isn't it some kind of like heebie-jeebie, like maybe some kind of voodoo? Like, do you really believe that stuff? And, you trying to explain that to those people that, this has, scientific, psychological background. It's a scientific method. It actually explains how it works and why it works. It's a Jungian psychology. There's so much more, right? Everything I explain in the open live sessions. Those people will not be happy with it. Why? Because that's your environment. Your environment is holding you back. And by the way, I had this happen. I had a lot of friends who would be like very skeptical. Guess what? Those people are the first ones now to call me and say, listen, Lana, what can I draw for this and this problem? They take the course. They took the course with me, the beginning of the basics course. They took a lot of advanced courses with me, and they asked me, and they're good friends of mine, and they call me and say, listen, I'm having this issue. What method would you recommend? Okay. Excuse me 1 second. My husband is calling. This might be important. Give me a second. I'm in the session and cannot talk now. No. Thank you. Okay, sorry. My husband is doing shopping, so we know it's very important to pick up when my husband is doing shopping because he needs to buy the right things. We know that. Women will understand, wives will understand. But anyway, so that's interesting to note. The first thing we do in the Neurographica is to start understanding that we need to learn how to establish connection. The next step is safety. How do we create safety? How do we promote safety when we deal with our inner selves? How do we, remember I said that word sensitivity? How do we develop sensitivity? That's when it comes, the second step. I'm sorry, the third step. The second step is the drawing, the actual drawing, the composition. But the third step is the rounding. The rounding is bringing harmony within your relationship. Again, even if it's your resistance that comes on the environmental level, start to understand that this is the way the resistance shows. Your blocks are showing as a resistance within the environmental level first, and then it becomes narrower and narrower. When you become more advanced, you don't even like deal with the environmental level as well. I mean, you do deal, you to live, it's important to live in the reality. But what I'm saying is that when something happens outside, right? And that's what happened with everybody, all the people who practice some kind of like integrative methods. When things happened in the world a week ago, more than a week ago, unfortunately already, the first thing we started to say is look in ourselves and see what's happening. Is there a war within me? Because that's what you learn to do. You learn to look within yourself. You learn to understand that when things happen outside, how do I deal with it on the inner level? Because the outside resistance, the outside consequence or sequence is only as a result of what's happening within myself. When we do the rounding, we learn how to bring love and care and comfort to our inner child. Remember, the first step is always, and by the way, not only, even if you're an advanced student, the first thing you establish a connection with whenever you work within this method or any other method, by the way, whenever you work with your goal, go back and you start asking your inner child, what do you think about this? Do you want it? You work with your inner values. Inner values is asking your inner self, do you really want it? Is that something you really believe in, right? Does that go against any value, any deep-rooted belief within yourself? I promise I will make a separate, I made one session already about the values. I want to develop it more. Actually took a whole self-value course, and I want to bring it to you because it had so many important aspects that I'm going to bring it to you, okay? This is the idea. Ask your child, what are your values? Become aware of your values. A lot of people, they don't know what their values. When I talk to them about values, like my clients and students, they're like, values? And I explain to them what values are. And the important part, why do we need to be aware of our values? Because whatever we do in life, all of our actions in life are signified, are signaled by our inner values. We don't do anything in life. Nothing in life will be done unless it works with our values. And that's what a lot of times when we set a goal, we want something, maybe something against our inner values, some inner values that we're not consciously aware of. That's why rounding is such an important part. That's why during the rounding, my students know I'm very big on reflection. If you want to learn about reflection, I'm sure it's one of the sessions. I'm not sure which one. Go into, I talk about it. There's definitely an awareness and reflection process. Awareness process, there's a video. Watch that. It explains how reflection works, why it works, why is it important to do. But most and foremost, at this level, what I'm going to tell you is it's the best way to discover your values. It's the best way to let you know, to talk to your inner self. It's the best way to bring harmony to your inner self on a conscious level. A lot of times people ask me, can I draw without actually doing the reflection? Can I just draw and listen to music? And I say, yes, of course. I do that when I work with myself, especially keeping in mind, right, that I do a lot of teachings. So sometimes I just want to sit down and just, just relax. I turn on my favorite music, right? Recently, it's listening to certain songs that talk about, let me know that you are good, right? I listen to certain artists. I'm not going to talk about it now, but if you want to, I'll send it to you. Very soothing music, very soothing songs that talk about, and the motto of the song is, can you let me know you are okay? Can you let me know you are well? And that's what we do, right? That's what my mind is set on that, knowing that you are good. And that goes to all of my friends, no matter which part of this, which side you're picking. And that's the unfortunate thing that's happening now. People started picking sides. People say, if you're not on my side, then you're against me. And I'm like, what do I do? Because I want love and care for everybody. I want peace for everybody, right? And that's what happens. What you can do is rounding. Okay, I want to do this. I want to go on Monday, maybe 11 o'clock. I will try to go either 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock on Monday. I will try to do a live drawing. Circles come to mind, but we're not going to do just circles. We're going to do a mandala. Okay, I'm going to do an open mandala drawing. It will be a free-flowing mandala drawing. I will explain to you what to do. I will give you some instructions of how to draw, and then it will be up to you what you want to do. We will start setting a mandala. We'll start bringing care, love, comfort, and rounding. Lots and lots of rounding, lots and lots of circles. Harmony. We need lots of harmony with ourselves now. Right? As people start building barricades. And yes, people, this is not barricades with others. Remember what I said. This is barricades within yourself. People don't want to see their inner child. But in this case, by the way, people don't want to see their inner adult, the inner adult that tell them, it's wrong to do this. And a lot of people start saying, no, we're told we need to do this, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the government we believe in. Not going to go anymore into politics now. It's not what it's about. That's what happens. We're going to start working on bringing our inner adult, figuring it out. Is it there? Okay. And I want to get back to the topic, the ARL. The ARL is about figuring out what are our limitations. Guess what? And I want to tell you something. Everybody have limitations. As soon as you set a topic, remember we talked about it, the limitations will come up. The important thing is to understand, how do you deal with it? In the beginner level, it is not okay. It is not safe to deal with it openly. You should not be bringing up limitations on a conscious level, right? Those of you who are in my specialist course or planning to be, we're going to discuss this during one of the major coaching algorithms called the SCORE, where we discuss how to bring up traumatic experience. And those of you who actually want to learn this specific SCORE, this specific method on an advanced level, ARL. Okay, I'm going to talk about. I actually explained it, but I'm going to tell it to you again, Vicky. But those of you who want to know how to relieve trauma, I have a special workshop. You're welcome to join and get that special workshop called Trauma Release through Neurographic Method. Vicky, ARL is an algorithm for removing limitations. And it's one of the major algorithms. We have 4 algorithms at the basics level course that we learn. ARL is one of them. Because the first thing you deal with yourself is start working with your limitations, figuring them out, getting to know them, like I said, establishing the connection with the different parts of who you are on the inside, and then bring harmony, right? Talk, listen, care. We do this through the reflection process. When we round, we need to do the reflection process. It's number 1 rule. Okay, another safety rule would be to make sure you round everything. By the way, ARL involves something we call the catharsis. What is a catharsis? Catharsis is the way, 1 second, I actually want to give you the official definition. That's what I do, because in the basics course, catharsis is the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. Okay. We do this graphically. We draw the catharsis. We bring the catharsis to paper. Because remember, that's what Neurographic is about. Welcome, Vicky. I'm glad. Thank you for your questions. Welcome to ask questions, please, because this is the best way to develop, to get to know, and to learn anything and everything. So Neurographica is a graphical way. When we do whatever we do on the paper, is the way we reflect. The first thing we do, the catharsis. Catharsis is the way we reflect on the paper, right? In Russian, it sounds like throwing. It's a throw. I remember referring it in the beginning as a throw, graphical throw. You throw on the paper your pain, right? You're not understanding, right? When you look at your goal, you say, why? You know, that ever-asking question that people ask throughout centuries that we hear so much now. Why, God? Why? Why are you doing? Why? And you can ask that for any goal. Why can't I reach my goal? What's happening? What's holding me back? Right? But then we'll learn, like what I said, we'll learn to go inside and ask our inner God, our inner self, what is holding me back? And in order to do that, we need to do a catharsis. A catharsis is this way to build up your anger, your sadness, the way you deal with not getting what you want. You know, this inner child who's mad because mommy didn't give him the 5th candy he's asking for. Okay, in my case, it's the 2nd candy, right? And it's this first, not understanding, why can't I get what I want in the world? Then you establish that connection with your inner parent, who doesn't say because you don't deserve, but rather gives a hug and says, because I love you, Because sometimes it's not good to put too much sugar into your body, right? Give an understanding and explanation. And that's what it's all about. Okay, so ARL is one of the best way to understand who we are, what we are, and then how do we go further, right? And the steps of the algorithm is what allow us to do that, right? First, we start dealing with reality. I don't have what I want. And we start going inside and understand that the reality around us is a sequential, is a kind of the result of what's happening within ourselves, dealing with ourselves, rounding. Cannot emphasize that enough. Then we start bringing in neural lines. Step 4.1. Start finding out, right? Once we establish this connection with our inner child, once we give our inner child or ourselves the care and love and comfort we deserve, then we start looking around and saying, who are the people around me? What is the world around me? How do I bring harmony to that? And that's when we bring lots of neural lines, right? That's when we bring neural lines and then start bringing rounding to all the intersections in the neural lines around our figure, around the original shape that we draw on the paper, the catharsis shape. And we start bringing harmony, we start bringing love to people around us, because that's the only way to work, right? We all know this. First, you work with yourself, and then you become a specialist. You start sharing Neurographica with others. By the way, if you want to become a specialist, the specialist course, this cohort is starting in a week and a half already. Next Wednesday will be the second session of the basics course. And then the week after, okay, not next Wednesday, but the week after, which will be, I believe, March 16, 2 sessions, March 16 and March 23rd, we're doing the specialist course. How to bring Neurographica to others. Those of you who have the basics course, welcome to join me. It's an amazing, amazing journey that I'm inviting everybody to join. If you don't have your basics course, welcome to join me now. You still have time. You can watch the first session recording and join us for the live session next Wednesday. Everybody's are invited to come and learn how to take care of yourself, okay? Let's start bringing transformation within our life, first on the inner level and then on the outer level. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. I want to thank you for giving me a platform to speak and listening to me, whether you join for a whole session or a partial. Those of you who are my special people who viewers on YouTube, because I know you work during the daytime and that's my working time as well, because we're all parents. Sometimes we're parents to our children. Sometimes we're parents to other people. We love and take care of somebody else, and we're busy in the afternoon. And in the evening, we take care of our family, right? And that's what I'm inviting everybody to do. Love your family, hug your family, give love, some care, and comfort. Bring harmony to your inner self, to your family, your first environment level, your community, your second environment level. You're welcome, Vicky. And of course, to the world. First it's your world, and then it's my world. And then we connect and making our world, okay? Monday, come join me. I will post. I'm not always able to plan in advance. Try to post either Sunday or Monday morning, early morning, 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Okay, I will go live and I will do some mandala with you. Let's create the world of peace together. Prepare your markers, prepare your favorite coloring devices. It can be pencils, it can be, with me, it's all pastels. Some of you like watercolors, I know. And let's start bringing the harmony to each other. Let's combine our worlds, my harmony world and your harmony world, and create the world together. Okay, maybe we can create a quilt of harmony pictures. Okay, wishing you a wonderful weekend ahead. I like to say Shabbat Shalom, which means have a peaceful Sabbath, have a peaceful weekend, right? In English, we say have a wonderful weekend, and that's what it's about. Peace, love, and harmony. Goodbye, everybody.